Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Major number HIT-41HS1. This is a template for HES 5000 and 5700 series electric strikes. Let's take it out of the packaging and take a look at it. This is very likely going to be for aluminum frames, would be my guess. Typically. Obviously, using it for hollow metal wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility either. A whole mess of paperwork here. I'm not sure. Okay, that's all installation instructions. Let's take a look at Let's do a visual tour of the item first, and then we'll dig into that encyclopedia that they sent. Nice looking anodized aluminum template. What's going to be really nice about this is, you're going to get repeatable, correct, accurate results every time that you use this. So, this is aluminum that has been machined, that has been, it's clearly just two different pieces that are attached together. Okay. An attractive green color as well. Instructions for the HIT-41 series electric strike templates. When using power tools, always use eye protection. Okay, so let's, in typical Major fashion, the installation instructions are long. That's because the type and the photographs inside are really huge, which is nice. It allows you to, in my opinion, more easily digest the process of going through and understanding what you're doing. Plus, also, there's many other pieces of information that's in here. So let's get these installation instructions pulled up. But before we do that, let's take some basic dimensional properties of the template itself. Overall height of the template, about 10 and 15/16. Overall width, looks like it's about 2 and 7/16. Overall thickness, just shy on 2 inch. Okay, so let's take a look at those installation instructions, and we're going to switch to the screen view to do so. Okay, so this is the item that we're looking at here, and there's a link down here to the installation instructions, and also with the paperwork is going to be an additional document that is not directly related to the template that you're purchasing, but indirectly. This is a document that states that you need to have the proper equipment to be used in conjunction with any router template. When you get into the world of router templates, you start to, and if you're new to using a template with a router, it will become clear to you pretty quickly that the size of the prep that you want to do in the door is related to the router bit. But in order to have a router and a router bit, you need a router base and a collet attached to it. Well, those collets have a specific outside dimension. And then when you start to think about, well, if my collet has a specific outside dimension, if we have our router base here, okay, and then our router up here, okay, a couple of handles just grossly drawn out of proportion. Here's our router bit. The bottom line is, inside of the base, here's a large view of our base. The base is going to have a collet installed. Okay, there'll be threads on here, and you're gonna thread that down. Well, your router bit's going to come out through here. The bottom line is, this has a dimension that you have to be concerned with, because the diameter of the router collet, the router guide collet, is directly related to the preparation that's been made in the template itself. How wide, how long is the actual template? So the size that you need to achieve for, in this case, your strike plate, works in conjunction with the router collet that you're using, and that will give you the size of the preparation in the router template itself. That sounded a bit extreme to go through, but the bottom line is the templates from Major that are specifically intended for aluminum frames or aluminum doors, you have to have a 3/8 OD template guide or collet with a 1/4 inch diameter bit. Their templates, their router guides that are used, that are intended for wood, are going to need a 5/8 template collet and a 1/2 inch diameter bit. This template's intended only for aluminum, but the document that's included goes on to show you the different collets. This is for a Sears model. This is for Ryobi. This is for Porter Cable and DeWalt and some newer Sears models. This is really what you're going to be dealing with if you have a typical Porter Cable. Porter Cable is the one I like to use because I've used them for years. They're robust, they're inexpensive, they're available in a variety of different horsepowers. You can buy them used, refurbished. You don't have to buy new routers. I would certainly opt for a refurbished unit. Major recommends the Porter Cable 691 D-handle router or any D-handle router of commercial duty. I've owned DeWalt primarily Porter Cable, a 691 Porter Cable. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, I've never owned a D-handle unit. I sure don't disagree with a D-handle unit. The reason they're asking for a D-handle unit is because the 691 has a lot of power. 1 3/4 horse. That's a lot of router. That's a lot of router. I'm thinking a router half of that size in terms of horsepower. Although when you're doing aluminum, you're really going to make one heck of a racket, and routing aluminum, while it's not a big deal, with the proper bit, does require, the right size tool, and obviously Major has done it, and they're recommending this large horsepower router. The routers that I'm used to using in all instances, because I really never get into needing more horsepower than that, is just something with two little knob handles on either end. All this router, these router sizes are quite large in terms of horsepower. I would think you could live with something with less, but nonetheless, that's what the factory's recommending, and I've always had really good luck with Porter Cable for their routers, especially a plunge router. You're going to need a plunge router at some point to do some work. So back to this. Okay, you have to have the right collet. If you don't, it's not going to work. This tool does not come with a collet. You're going to have a collet. Be mindful that if you're going to do this work, this client happened to buy the router bit, the 1/4 inch router bit, which we'll get to, we'll talk about in a little bit, but you've got to have the right collet. So this paperwork is there because it's so crucial that you, understand that relationship, okay? And it says it right here in a consolidated form where this aluminum door template requires that 3/8 outside diameter router bit with a 1/4 inch diameter bit, okay? So always wear eye and ear protection. I have spent many years, many years, and a wood and metal shop, and it just takes getting some welding slag in your eyeball to scratch your cornea to realize that you're never doing that again. So absolutely. So let's get into the business end of getting this conversation going. Okay, so you've got the right collet installed on your unit. This is that Porter cable tool that they're referring to. That collet is installed here. You've got your router bit installed as well. Okay. Install the 1/4-inch diameter aluminum cutting router bit into the router collet. And yes, you can route aluminum. You just have to have the proper bit for doing so. Well, you have to have a carbide bit is certainly going to cut aluminum. Although it does make quite a chatter. Do not bottom the bit in the collet. Hold it about 1/16 of an inch from bottoming. Adjust the router bit so that it'll rotate about 1/4 to 3/8 into the door channel, meaning the frame. You're going to want projection into the frame. They go on to say that the electric strike being installed in the following demonstration is for an offset hung door. There are strike models available for both offset and center hung doors. If mounting in a center hung jamb, be sure there is depth clearance for the strike. Our website has a complete listing of templates. Okay, sure. So what they're saying is in an offset application, and an offset application is going to be, you have your jamb, your aluminum jamb, and your vertical axis of pivoting is going to be offset. It's going to be actually from the face of the door to the center line is going to be 3/4 inch. Now there are different offsets of pivots. There's 1.5 inch, which doesn't come into you're probably not going to see that often in an aluminum storefront. Although it is possible, it does exist. You could also do center hung, where your pivot point, your axis of pivoting, is down in the center of the thickness of the door. And what they're saying is if you're doing a center hung, you're going to need to use a different template. Now, let's take a look. For height alignment, let the door close to the jamb. With a pencil, locate the top and bottom of the latch. Transfer these lines to the front and side of the jamb with the use of a combination square. With a combination square, establish the center line of the strike. The door and strike need to have the same center line. For a 1 3/4 thick door, this dimension is 7/8 from the door stop if the lock is centered in the door channel. If the lock is off center, adjust accordingly. What they're saying is we're looking at the so you've got some stop here, and the door is mounted in here. What they're saying is the center line in the center of the thickness of the door, the center line needs to be the center line on the jamb as well. That's all they're saying. And they're saying that if you have an 1 3/4 door, that dimension is 7/8 of an inch from the door stop. So 7/8 of an inch measured from the door stop to the center line is 7/8. You do need to determine, how far back your strike prep is going to be, and that's the dimension they're giving you for this particular strike. So once you have your line established, align the template to the pencil marks and what is not immediately obvious is you've identified your pencil marks, the top and bottom of your jamb. What's not immediately obvious is there are a couple of notches in your template that you're going to line those, the top and bottom of your latch with. Okay. Align the HIT 41 template to the pencil marks and attach to the jamb using Tech Point drywall screws. It's a good idea to use a drill with a clutch feature. You don't want to snap the screw off in the jamb. So this template includes a small package of self-drilling tech screws, drywall style tech screws, and you're going to attach your template to the jamb using this tech screw. So some templates have one screw hole, top and bottom, and some have two. This one has two. These holes will align with the factory mounting tabs needed later. Some factory tabs are mounted with one and some with two. How many are needed depends on the strike you are using. So what they're saying is this Hes 5700 strike, or Hes 5000, I'm not sure how it's in the site here. So 5000. Okay, so they're showing the mounting tabs, and it's inferred that they are included with your package, with your strike. I don't see a reference in the installation instructions where it states they are included, and in fact, I don't see where they're automatically included. So you'll want to be sure that you have, obviously, mounting tabs for this strike. If we were to take a look at the manufacturer's page, yeah, I don't see where they're automatically including those. They do. For use with this template is for the 501A option, and that's going to include that. So when you pick up the 501A option, cylindrical locks or spring latches and aluminum frames includes universal mounting tabs. Great, so you're going to get those. No trouble at all. Those have two holes as shown earlier, and you're going to reuse those holes, in fact. The second hole for the tab can be located by drilling a 9/16 drill bit or by using a second screw. So you can attach your template with a couple of screws or with all four. I might be tempted to use all four because of the chatter that this that this is going to make. Okay, and they're going to show you how to prep the frame later on in this installation instructions. Template mounted and ready to go. We recommend the area to be routed to be lubricated with a cutting lube. Cutting oil, thread cutting oil is always a good idea. We use a product called Tapmatic Edge Cream made by the LPS company. LPS makes lubricants for lots of different things. Locksmithing industry, and if Major uses it, I would suggest that you consider this to be your product as well. And in fact, Tapmatic okay, there it is, right in our site. Cutting fluid. Adjust the router bit so that it is about a 1/4 inch past the aluminum as shown. So they're going to do the face apparently first. Place the router at the bottom of the template. Got that D handle there, and then your knob. You're going to do the lip area first, which is the face of the frame, rotating clockwise starting at the bottom. Let the router come to full speed and route through the side of the jam. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template and do not back up in the cut. That's going to cause chatter on your preparation. You want that edge to be as smooth as possible. Let the router come to a complete stop before removing it from the frame. Turn it off. When you remove your index finger, the trigger will depress. Let it come to a complete stop before removing it. Okay. Now you've got this little notch in the face of the frame, this C-shaped notch. Note that we did not route through the top of the lip area because it's going to be cut out when you do your next pass. There's no reason to cut all this away. It's going to be cut when we go to the next step, which is here. Place the router at the top of the template. You will be routing the faceplate area. The router guide should be touching the electric strike. The router guide should be touching the electric strike template with the bit not making contact with the frame. Let the router come to full speed and route through the side of the jam. So what they're saying is place the tool in the workpiece so that as soon as you turn it on, it is not immediately cutting. You want to have it located in a free area so that you can bring it to full speed before you start your cut. Be sure to hold the router flat against the template. Yes, you don't want to tip your router bit at all. And don't back up when you're doing aluminum. Clean up all the brush and debris. I would very much recommend a shop vac with you at all times. One thing that I like to do while I'm doing this routing is I have a second person standing there with the shop vac collecting all of this as it's being created. Keeping this to a minimum is crucial. You know, these burrs get everywhere. It's aluminum, so it's not as horrible as steel, but nonetheless, it gets everywhere. In your shoes, in your sleeves. You want to keep that clean, and I like to capture it as immediately as it's being created. Clean off your work area. After making the first pass, clean the work area, then make a second cleaning pass with your tool, following the same clockwise pattern. Don't back up. Remove the template from the unit. Shop vac. I like to shop vac, pull it off rather than wiping it off. I don't want to micro scratch things. Clean off your frame. Then at this point, you're going to any jarring that has occurred, any small ridge lines that have occurred, clean that off with a nice hand file just to dress it off is what you're doing here. And you're going to notice that it's left your 1/8 inch radius, which is what's called out for the 501A. Making a square preparation in the face of the jam is required for this unit, so you'll do so with a hand file. Okay, clean off your corners. Then you're going to drill your mounting tabs. You've got the holes located in your template. Now time to drill the holes needed for the factory mounting tabs. Use a 3/16 bit for this. The template in this case uses 2 mounting holes top and bottom. Some strikes require only 1, so be mindful. Then simply countersink those holes to accept the flathead screws that are going to hold the mounting tabs in place. And it's going to look like this when you're done. Nice and clean. Very nice and clean. Install your mounting tabs that will come with the faceplate. At that point, you're just going to attach your strike. Your wires are going to be tucked into place. That's all there is to it. Now, the bottom line is you don't need a router template to do this. You can do it by hand. The issue with doing it by hand is you've got your stop here, and it's not easy to get in there and to cut this line straight. Now, I've done it with a rotary, a pneumatic rotary, tool where I've put a cutoff disc in there and I've done it that way. And it works. I mean, you can make it work. It's just you're not going to be as straight as you would with a router and a template. If you're doing work for a client, yeah, you're going to want this to present itself clean, straight, all the way around as best that you can. And that's how that's going to work. And that's the end of the installation instructions. Let's wrap up this video on camera. So that was a review of the template installation instructions. Here are those lines that we're referring to for the top and bottom of your latch. Okay, and by the way, this weighs about 1.75 pounds. Here are those screws that they referred to earlier to get the unit held in place, which will end up being your mounting tab locations as well. You know, the bottom line is templates are expensive. Tools for doing this are expensive. You can change spark plugs with a toothbrush. You know, it's just, you know, how long is it going to take you to do that? And if you're very comfortable in your wood shop, you'll probably make your own templates. You don't need to necessarily purchase someone else's fabricated template. But the majority of people are just going to buy templates. Why? Because they want it, they just want it to work right. They don't want to have to try to figure out how to make a template, because the math on the height and the width and everything here, again, is related to that collet diameter and the net size that you need to achieve. And for some people, that's just not math that they're interested in trying to figure out. I personally make my own templates, but I personally am comfortable with doing so, because there are so many different pieces of hardware that it's hard to justify having a near infinite storehouse of templates. The other thing is, it's going to take you a long time to make your own template. There's an investment in time. You have to ask yourself, how often will I do this? The other question to ask yourself is, how professional do I want to make the results look, and the durability. This is incredibly durable. If I was going to make something like this, it would sure be out of wood and not be nearly as durable as this. So I might think to myself, you know, I've got 14 frames to do. Make my own that will not be as good as this, because it would probably be made out of wood. Very durable aluminum. So you have to rationalize all of that. Major's already done the thinking for us, and have made it incredibly simple to install the material. You just have to supply the router, you know, and the Moxie, I guess, but beyond that, there's nothing else to supply. So I would recommend a long review at this. There's that center line that we talked about earlier as well, a little notch there. So if you run a vertical center line, you'll be able to see that as you look, you know, in your template, up and down. Okay. An attractive green anodized color as well. So there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can, you know what, let's just switch back to the screen view and we'll take a look at it together. So here's that link to the manufacturer's page, and as you pull that up, you're going to see not only all of the major products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the product catalog. And the product catalog is chock full of a number of installation aids, but many other items as well. Okay. Security hardware that you can scroll through and see here. You know, a way to be able to clamp a locking device over trim, lever or knob trim. A key trap, which requires 2 independent keys in order to gain access to something that may be on the inside, or to activate something. You need two different keys. Key traps are typical. These are obviously cylinder guards. More of them here. Security strikes, etc. there's just far too much to go through here. Mounting tabs, you can buy mounting tabs from them as well. What I really wanted to show you was the hardware that they have for extending the length of a cylinder, and here it all is. So I have successfully done in the past, I've had requirements for long cylinders. I think the last ones I made were, they may have been 2.5 inch in length, which is not incredibly long, but I had a client in Manhattan who was installing Corbin Russwin locks onto doors that were maybe 4-inch thick. The locks were not centered in the door, and they needed a cylinder, let's just say, was 2.5 inch. So Major manufactures these extensions. So I took 1.25 inch mortise cylinder. I drilled and tapped the back of the mortise cylinder to add my extension. You then need also this cylinder plug extension as well, and then when you insert this into this, and all of this is attached to your original mortise cylinder, along with the mortise cylinder drive cam, which you need, you now have a longer cylinder. And then I added my Corbin Russwin A01 cam, and I was as right as rain. So I also bought this template, and I've used the template. I found that it worked well. I would certainly use it again rather than trying to do it by hand. I did notice that it may have required a very small amount of adjustment, but the cylinder extension kit template and the parts to do so, you need a 3-inch cylinder, and you need it now. Well, it's going to take a couple hours of labor to get it made, but it's nice to have access to these parts, okay? Because you will bump into weird cylinder lengths, and this is, in effect, what it looks like when it's all said and done, okay? Worked out really well for my client. The cylinders become expensive because these parts and the labor are costly, but, when you need a 3-inch cylinder, that's all there is to it. Lots of other things in here to look at. And let's take a look at our 41, our HIT templates. Lots of them are here. They've really taken the job of helping the locksmith get material professionally installed to the extreme, to the mature level. Lots of function holes for every type of lock possible. Those are also here as well. Let's finish up this video on camera. So this video showed you how to use the template in terms of discussing it with you. We talked about how to use the template. It's now just time for you to go use the template. Obviously reversible. That link to the manufacturer's page where you can get that catalog is really great. There seem to be less choices in the marketplace when it comes to installation aids. The people at Major keep it simple and straightforward in my experience, and I would not hesitate to suggest that you not only review their product line, but that you consider using their templates. They're very well made, and I've used them in the past. I can speak from experience, and they do their job. Any questions on this is the Major, this is the part number HIT-41HS1, 5000 series with a 501A faceplate option by Hess or any other Major product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.